In accordance with the Openness of Local Bodies Regulation 2014, this meeting is being streamlined and may otherwise be recorded, filmed or communicated on other media platforms. Recording of this meeting will be made available on the Council's YouTube channel shortly after the meeting. Both councillors and officers in attendance are reminded to make full use and to speak clearly into the microphones available at all times. Reminder that mobile phones should be turned off or put on silent mode. Those present at the meeting should refrain from taking phone calls. I'd like to remind that those members of the public in attendance must not act in a disorderly or restrictive manner, otherwise interfere with the council or committee's proper conduct of its business. Thank you. Apologies for absence.
Apologies were received from Councillor Rosemary Adams and Councillor Liz Darling.
Thank you. Any substitutes?
There were none.
Declarations of interest? No. Missed previous meeting, you wish I sign those, a true and accurate record? Action list arising from the previous meeting, pages 7 to 9. Any queries at all? All covered in the agenda later on this evening. Okay. Petitions and deputations, have we had any?
None.
None, thank you. Right, item number 7, corporate performance update, pages 10 to 66. This is a new way of doing the committee, so that you've got lots of appendices that cover lots of information, cover all the things that the committee is responsible for. So if we start on page 10, wish to make any comment at all, Ms Hatton, at all? Yes.
Thank you, Chair. Good evening, members. I'm here to present an update on the corporate performance for Q1 2022 to 23. In January 22, the LGA conducted a peer review, as you know, and 2 key recommendations were for a new vision and for a corporate plan to be created by members. The sign for both of these documents is not likely until September 22 and February 23, respectively. This report contains KPIs which relate to continuous improvement in line with our corporate plan 2019 to 2024 and statutory KPIs that have been delivered as usual. There are 44 continuous improvement KPIs, 40 of those are due to be reported in Q1. There are 24 statutory key performance indicators, 19 of these are due to be reported in Q1. For both continuous improvement and statutory KPIs, the indicators are categorised by each objective and each service delivery arm. Each target has been graded as per normal, red, amber and green, with the 2 other rankings blue for indicators where work has been yet to begin, and white for ranking system where it's outside the control of the council for delivery and therefore those cannot be ranked. Members approved at the last delivery committee that a new format for report, and members will see that the operational update now follows as appendices. I would now like to refer members to the corporate performance section 2.4, where I will go through the continuous improvement KPIs. Out of the 44 indicators for continuous improvement, 40, as I said, were due for reporting at Q1. Of that 40, 34 were green, 6 were amber, and 0 were red. This equates to 85% green and 15% amber. Looking at the continuous improvements under our corporate objectives, we can see that 11 are green for building and protecting empowering communities, 4 KPIs for green and 1 was amber for growing quite economically, 19 KPIs for green and 5 amber for providing excellence. Looking at this further by department, we can see that 13 KPIs for green and 1 was amber for built environment department, 6 KPIs for green for customer services and transformation, 9 KPIs were green and 1 KPI was amber for finance and resources, and 6 KPIs were green for law and democracy. I'll now go through the KPIs, the statutory KPIs, so please be directed to 2.5. Out of 24 indicators, 19 were due for reporting at Q1, and out of that 19, 17 were green, 1 was amber and 1 were red. This equates 90% green, 5% amber and 5% red. Looking at these under our corporate objectives, you can see that all 6 KPIs were green for building and protecting empowering communities. There were no statutory KPIs for growing the borough economically, and 11 of the KPIs were green, 1 KPI was amber, and 1 KPI was red for providing excellent services. And further looking at these statutory KPIs by department, we can see that all 8 KPIs that were statutory were green for the built environment. There were no statutory KPIs for customer service and transformation. 3 KPIs were green, 1 was amber, and 1 was red for finance and resources, and all 6 KPIs were green for law and democracy. I can hand back to you now to take over to the exception reporting. If there are any questions myself or relevant heads of service, we'll be happy to answer these.
Any questions on the first part? No. What we're interested in now is the red one, which is 4.1. And this is referred to later on in the agenda anyway, with an action plan following in. So I don't think there's any point in discussing that at the moment. That'll become later on in the meeting. The rest of them are amber on pages 16 and 17. Any questions on those, Doors, 16 and 17? No? Okay. And on page 18. No? Okay, thank you very much indeed. That deals with that bit. Now we go to Appendix 1, which is Mr Thorpe. Page 19.
Thank you, Chair. I wasn't intending to go through this section in any particular detail, unless you would like me to, but I will be happy to answer any questions if members have any.
Okay. Mr Bentley.
Just a quick one, Chair. Regarding the local plan, I know it was slightly delayed, and right now we have people in place. Are we going to be on track in the future and get this done as required?
Mr Thorpe.
Yes, from our point of view, in terms of the council's resources and the timetable of that programme, if we have to do the work, then we will be on course. What we can't account for is any external influences in terms of other partners that we need to complete work, so that's at the Leicestershire level, and there is a risk that that might delay us in being able to progress even though but from our point of view, we're fully resourced to do that at the moment.
Thank you. Mr Boyce.
Thank you, Chair. Couple of quick points on light bulb. We are making progress, but it's still terribly difficult to understand. So we need to carry on attempting to get what we need to prove that we're actually fulfilling the need of our residents. On Ukrainian refugees, I think it's wonderful that 9 people within the borough have made accommodation available. However, the process has been going on for 6 months, well, the war has been going on 6 months now. And there are already many reports of breakdown of family provision. And clearly, the risk from the Ukrainian refugees becoming homeless is something that we need to take seriously. Thank you.
Yep. Mr Thorpe, you want to answer that one at all? We discussed this today.
Yes, Chair, just to say that we are working closely with Leicestershire County Council and other district councils in Leicestershire over this. As it says in the report, the County Council are recruiting 3 posts. They will be the first point of contact when there are sort of relationship breakdown for potential cases of homelessness.
Sorry, Chair, if I may come back, the point being that the homelessness of these refugees will be added to our already large homeless problem. But that, I think, is something that was never taken into account when this whole scheme was announced.
Thank Thank you. Mrs Hack.
Thank you, Chair. Just very quickly on a light bulb, I wasn't terribly happy about the Donald's comments that were in action list. Thought I'd just mention that. On page 21, under light bulb, in the bullet point, contribution required from applicant was too high. I think I might have asked this question previously. What happens to those applicants if the contribution required from them is too high, but they still need some sort of help?
Thought.
Thank you, Chair. That question has been asked before. In fact, when the representative from Lightbulb came to the meeting, and they confirmed that Lightbulb did make sure that those people were looked after and had some follow-up support. But it is a fact that through the DFG process, often the applicant has to provide a contribution towards the work as well as the grant that they will receive through the Lightbulb programme.
Thank you. Any other questions like reports at all? Mr Lloyd, sorry.
I'm just going to Ukraine. I just, on a positive note, I think that the organisation I belong to, they're looking after at least 3 of those families from a food impact point of view. Quite resilient. This is one family where the mother ran a business in Ukraine. She made clothes, etc. When she came over here, she brought her machine with her. And now she's setting up business of her own in this country. So she doesn't become dependent on the help that she's getting. And she starts up her own business along with her family. So full credit to the people that are coming. They've come, we had 4 families this week. So I have to say they are quite resilient and they want to work and want to get on. And this is a good example of one particular family that's doing just that and set up her own business. And she's actually making stuff for Amazon. So, you know, it's a positive way that these people are settling and developing their own techniques. But I think we need to thank everybody for the help that we're giving them.
Thank you. Okay. Now move on to the finance update. Mrs Bingham, I believe.
Thank you, Chair. So similarly, I wanted to go through a presentation. I will just obviously point out that the collection rate action plan is presented as an appendix this evening. So welcome any questions on that. I think also on reflection, you know, quarter one is the beginning of the financial year, so without a huge amount of accuracy, it is quite difficult to forecast where we'll be at the end of the year. And with the action plan having just been agreed, obviously we are expecting to mitigate the the forecast position as it stands currently and make some significant improvements towards the end of the financial year.
Thank you. Mr Bentley?
Just a quick question, Chair. We've asked this before because this has come up before. Under revenues, it's stating that the council tax team continue to deliver excellent customer service, which they do, by answering 8% of calls. And that's what happens to the 12%? Are they cancelled by the caller, or must be something that happens to them?
This is a joint one between Miss Hatton and yourself, Miss Hatton and yourself. I'm not sure on them.
So in regards to the abandoned calls, I suppose, there's usually a combination between the caller themselves choosing to abandon maybe because they feel the call wait time's too long. Other times it can be something like a baby crying, for example, it could be a range of things. We find generally those people will call back at a later point, but that's when the call.
Could I just ask as well, when you say 88% of calls, is that, do you have a number for that, rather than the percentage?
I don't know, if you'd like us to come back with that, we can ask
In the next report, can you please put that in the report, not just percentage, the actual numbers?
Absolutely. I'll feed that in.
Okay. Now, top of page 26, we've got a comment about the cost of living focus group. Now, in the papers this evening, you've got various things the officers are doing. I think Mr Boyce wants to make a comment about that.
Thank you, Worship.
Pardon?
Turning miles away. Thank you, Chair. We are in a difficult situation in that obviously we have a new Prime Minister. You may have heard of 5 o'clock. I've left my phone on, by the way, just in case she rings. The biggest problem at the moment is we know we have a cost of living crisis. We've already changed our website to give a significant amount of advice and information for people. The problem we have is simply that until the government gives us appropriate direction, we are in danger of moving in various directions ourselves and not necessarily getting it right. Having said that, there is a significant amount of work gone on understanding what we could do, including warm accommodation for people during the day and so on. But until the government has set the parameters, it is difficult for us to be firm about what we want, beyond the fact that we are doing as much groundwork as we can in the interim until that clarity arrives.
Thank you. No further questions. We move on to customer satisfaction. Mrs Hatton, then please.
Thank you, Chair. Again, like my colleagues, I don't intend to go through this in any detail, but if there's any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
You'll note at the bottom of page 27, two little squares, that's the card that officers are being given to give out to members of the public for contact details, and they're out and about, especially the street cleaners, so that they're in regular contact with residents. So on there is the phone number, email address, and other information that might be useful to them. Thank you. Moving on then, you've got a bit there about refuse and recycling on page 28. Not surprising that the green waste has gone down somewhat because of the dry weather. We don't know why the refuse has gone down and recycling has gone down, but perhaps the cost of living is already beginning to bite on that subject. So we'll look at the next report and see what happens there. Mr Boyce.
Thank you. It's on that particular issue. Recycling, we as a council actually have always been the bottom percentile in terms of what waste goes to landfill, and our numbers are always low. The issue really is the relationship between refuse and recycling. If we are recycling 60%, if refuse goes down and recycling goes down, we maintain at 60%, that's okay. So understanding the ratio between the two would be rather helpful. And if in the next report that ratio can be included, that will give us far more information. Thank you.
Okay, that'll be done for next time. Okay, thank you. Law and Democracy, Mr Gill.
Thank you, Chair. Like my colleagues, I'm not going to go through the report in detail. There's just one point I want to make in terms of environmental health, which is on top of page 29. In the first two paragraphs, we talk about the food service plan and food inspections, and the fact that we'd gone out to recruit a technical officer to provide some support. We're very fortunate in that we've managed to recruit somebody in office, somebody opposed to who is going to join us as a senior technical officer who is already food qualified. They are currently studying for a Masters in Environmental Health, which they should complete by October, and therefore we will be having an additional environmental health officer as opposed to a technical officer, which is going to provide considerable support in that team. So unless members have got any other questions on the other numerous sections of my report, then I don't propose anything further.
Okay, Mr Bentley.
Thank you. Can I just ask a question about page 32, Roxhill Country Park?
Yep.
It basically, the headline says Roxhill Country Park and the ranger continues to lead regular volunteer sessions. That's fine. How do the other points relate to Roxhill Country Club?
Well, they don't actually.
None of them do.
No.
So, I mean, I wanted to know what's happening with Roxhill Country Park. Could you tell me about capital works carried out for repairs?
I think there should actually have been a gap between the two, and I think it should have said Roxhill Country Park and then a separate heading for the work that we have done in respect of the depot community centres and pavilions. I think members will be aware that we recently took on a new health and resilience officer, Mr Bradford, and Mr Bradford has been undertaking an assessment of where we are with all of our health and safety and where we need to be. And I think the two have just slightly got merged. Possibly the fact that the corporate assets manager was demob happy because she was due to go on leave, and it's just mixed up.
Can I just say as well, regarding Roxhill, can we have it on record that the building will start work on the building on the 19th of September this month?
That's correct. That was published in the members' bulletin, the staff bulletin last week. So the work does commence on the 19th.
Can we also ensure that people who use the country park know that they can use the facilities at Parklands? Because we're getting queries from residents to say there's no facilities anymore.
Well, the residents are. Yeah. We'll make sure that notices are put up, but residents are actually currently using Parklands because we've had a reported back from the management. So we'll make sure that sufficient signage does go up. And certainly, as I'm being told by my colleagues that the signage is already up.
Is that right, Mrs Bingham? Up are they?
That's right, yeah, we have had some feedback from a member of the public, and we have replaced the signage specifically around those points, so it is now very clear around where the next set of amenities are in terms of using Parklands.
Okay. I'm concerned about the bottom of page 29. This new exciting project about wees and children. Can we keep up on our radar, please, Mr Gill, and give us regular updates what's happening there?
We certainly can do. That's not an issue.
Okay. Thank you. Also on that report, you've got allotments, cemeteries, car parks, green and clean, selective licensing, green homes grants. It's all there for you to have a look at and question. Also, we've got crime and disorder, community and wellbeing. Any comment there, Mr Gill?
No particular comment, and know that we've had some complaints around ASB down at William Gunning Park, alongside the issue that we've had complaints about travellers on site. We've taken positive, proactive action with regard to the travellers, and they'll be moved on before the end of the week. And the impact team have been contacted and are doing regular patrols in William Gunning Park to address the complaints that we have been receiving. Anecdotally, we don't have any actual real complaints or firm complaints that either ourselves or the police have been able to record with regard to the ASB down there.
Okay, Mrs Broadley?
Thank you, Chair. The allotments, there are 74 people waiting on a waiting list over the 4 sides. And there are 12 plots that have been vacant. After speaking to Councillor Charles, he thought there was much lot more than that. At one point, we were looking at dividing some of the plots because not everybody wants a large plot to manage. You know, they'll take our part. Did we ever carry that out? So that, you know, we could perhaps reduce the waiting list from 74 down if people do want to take half a plot.
Yes, that has been done.
Yep. Well, where people view the allotments and indicate to us that the plot size is too large, we do consider at that time whether it's appropriate to reduce the size of the plot and offer it to other people. But of course we have to match so that we have 2 people on the plot. There's little point in having half a plot being tendered and the other half just standing vacant.
However, the tenancy goes from Lady Day to Lady Day, which is the end of September, the allotment year. So people give the allotments up on the 28th of September, if they don't want to carry on anymore, so we have to wait until then. If they paid the money for the allotment for the year, we can't tip them off until 28th of September, then they can be re-let after that date. Mr Lloydell?
Yes, it's about the crime disorder. I'm working very closely now with the police. Unfortunately, I have to say that crime is significantly up this time. Overall crime is up by 13%. Drugs is up by 16.9%. Weapons is significantly high. Criminal damage is 16% up, theft is 28% up, robbery is 25%. Sexual offences are unchanged, but violence is up 9.9%. Which is, when you think about it, it's oh gosh, what's going on? Well, some of it is down to recording. I'll give you an example. You can record an incident, but an incident could contain something like common assault, harassment. That goes down as one incident, but in actual fact there's potentially two crimes. So we separate them, so obviously it goes up. When the new inspector comes, which is on leave at the moment, we'll be looking at these figures very closely, and there will be an action plan in place to, I would say there is already an action plan in place in partnership with us. We need to get that recorded better and be able to better understanding of how it all works. Some positive news, of course, is that when we did have a problem and it was reported, and this was on the Little Hill estate, where it was reported that motorcycle riders were out with no helmets and using this as a racetrack and one thing or other. That were reported, and we worked with the police, and they very quickly patrols up there, extra patrols up there. Through the July and August, they will continue to regular watch it there for September. If there's nothing, if it all dies down, then obviously they will move on to something else. So, they reacted very quickly in that situation. Equally, in that same area there was some burglaries. They reacted very quickly, and I understand that they've caught the perpetrators. So something is happening, and there is a lot happening with the police and the CSP. Although the figures look a bit daunting, when you think about how it's recorded, then that's why it's going up. But that's not to say we're complacent. We're working very positively. The police are doing very miraculous things. There is a lot of changeover down at the police station as well. The sergeant's retired, there's a new one coming in, new inspector. There'll be new. Eventually there'll be new PCSOs as well. So their establishment is building up. So watch this space. I'm quite positive that we can move forward in a collaborative way and get the results we want. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. That's crime disorder dealt with. Youth engagements dealt with health and wellbeing. Mr. Allen?
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, just to give you a quick update with regards to exactly what Kevin Woodward's been saying, is that the Youth Forum, which I'm chairing, we're still at the moment going to be putting together a plan as to getting the students at the school, the colleges, to get this up and running in terms of getting our councils and Parliament ready. Now, I just want to also say that with the crime statistics and the various things that the Council Lloyd has been talking about, we want to bring that together with the Youth Parliament, and we want to hopefully build and develop more awareness amongst the youth about some of the situation that's going on within our borough. So that is work in progress, and hopefully now, as the schools have opened up, we can start getting things moving at a grassroots level. So that's just the update there, and I'm also going to be speaking to Mark as well about how we can do that with one of the officers.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Lloydell?
Yeah, just come back again. Positive thing that we've had ASB down at South Wixton, as you know, through Bennett Way. etc. for young people. Congratulations to support Tom McCabe, the associate there. He's worked tirelessly to do things around there. We've got the impact team working as well down there to sort those young people out. There's one that's been given a community order, been banned from some of the shopping places around there. Sorry, actually, it was quite a nifty little person. I went down there with the police and he saw us. As he does from back of his ears go in and thought, you would have chased him, alright. Leave it. But yeah, there was some good work going on down there, and it's all positive. Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Broadley?
You sure?
Yeah, sorry, yeah.
Can I just ask, I mean, it's not obviously included in it, there was always the youth thing on Bailey Road Park when Councillor Richard Morris chaired the evening, and obviously it was, that was it, I remember, senior citizen moment, which was very popular. I mean, I know it had to stop because of COVID and I think really bad weather. But it was very popular, very enjoyable for people. It was something that the youth did themselves, really, you know, with some assistance. Can I ask if it's coming back?
Mr. Gill?
Thank you, Chair. We are looking at putting on some sort of event for the youngsters and the youth, but it may not necessarily be in the exact same format that the Supersonic Boom was previously. As you appreciate, the one particular year we had to cancel it because of the appalling weather and it caused an issue. So whilst we're looking at it, something will be coming along in the future, but not necessarily in the same format, if that answers the question.
Thank you. Mrs. Hack?
Thank you, Chair. Very quickly, on page 30, under selected licensing, does that table include overall figures, or is it just two excited, 586, 259? Is that total income over 4 years, or?
No, that's the total income that's been recouped to date. So the number of licences that have been issued and the income that's been recouped to date, although it is a 5-year licensing period.
Okay.
That's what I wanted to check. Also, under licensing, do we actually actively encourage people who trade from home in terms of food licenses or food hygiene license? Do we advertise about that? Do we, is there any mechanism of people reporting that someone's trading from home and they don't actually have all the licenses in place?
Yes, there is a mechanism in place and it's called social media, and we frequently review social media. So where Mrs. Smith is providing a Sunday lunch service from her home address for a price, then we will be checking with Mrs. Smith to make sure that she is licensed. So yes, we do that. We do get reports in as well from members of the public. And in fact, one of the complaints that we did have over the past couple of years ago, that somebody was actually having a really nice Sunday dinner every week, which was stopped because we found out that the person was making it and then started asking questions and wanted them to be licensed. And of course, food business operators are under a duty to register in any event. So when we do find them, then we will deal with them if they're not registered.
Thank you. Okay. Right, we'll move on. Everyone active? Report? No. Service Delivery Committee, Environment Working Group. First time you had a little note about the Environment Working Group. Mr. Card's not here this evening. I was going to ask him to introduce a bit about it. But you'll see there that we've got to plant a few more trees, and I'm sure this autumn that will be action by our tree officer, won't it, Mr. Gill?
I'm not sure that he'll be physically planting the trees himself, but I'm no doubt that he will perhaps facilitate the planting of some trees.
Thank you. It's Appendix 2. On Appendix 3 is a list of activities that are taking place for the next few months. It's the first time I had a list like this, so please support wherever you can. Then we come to the cost of living pages, and there's quite a lot of those. But it shows what officers have been doing on our behalf about the cost of living and the problems that people are having. Mr. Boyce.
Chair, just for clarity, the cost of living doesn't only affect our residents, it actually affects council. There is building work going on, and that will be reported to policy in the next week, I believe it is. So that's also happening. We need to look at ourselves, and clearly there may well need to be hard decisions, I would guess, around about for council in December. So if any hard decisions do need to be made, that will be the time when they may need to be made, because clearly, unless the government comes up with a resource, we will have to look at both our own pocket, whether there is anything left in it, and of course the need of any action plan we create. But that work is ongoing.
Thank you. No questions? Appendix 6 on page 51. These are all the things that the committee is responsible for. This report won't appear again for another 12 months. These are the indicators that we're not...
Point of order.
Yes?
Appendix 5.
Appendix 5, that's an interesting one. Yes. Is that the paper that came round this evening that says agenda item 7? Yes. We'll come to that in a second. Right.
Checking that you're watching.
No, it's there. Don't worry. Don't worry. So these indicators you won't have to see again for another 12 months. Now we come to agenda item 7.
Point of order.
Go on.
Appendix 8. For clarity, page 61.
Yes.
You haven't done it.
No, I haven't yet. You questioned agenda item 7 a minute ago.
Well, I was just checking you were watching. You haven't finished agenda item.
No, but I thought you wanted to bring this one forward. I thought you were going to leave us or something. No. Okay. Appendix 8 then, customer services. Is Hatton on that one, please?
Again, the report gives you lots of information about the customer services team and performance they're doing at the moment. Any questions from members?
Any questions at all? No? Right. So are we going to agenda item 7 now then? Oh, you know, if that's what we wish to do, we'll get to agenda item 7. Came round the table this evening. Had a chance to read it yet? Who's not got one?
I'll share.
Somebody else got one? You're fumbling the papers. Yeah, we've all got one. Okay, we'll go page by page. Page 3. Mrs. Bingham, would you make any comment on this paper before we get too carried into it? Because it's...
Sure. Okay, yeah. So I suppose a high-level introduction would be, this is, an action-based plan that's to remedy the current level of collection rate performance, which we know is much lower than where we want it to be, and clearly already quite low, but headed into a cost of living crisis where there's a risk that our collection rates could reduce further. So this action plan has been developed since the last service delivery committee, based on the feedback that was received at that meeting. It's just been agreed with the senior leadership team, and it includes a range of targeted interventions to improve collection rates. And much of the actions here are around the mechanics of managing business rates and managing council tax. So it looks at individual processes, individual policy areas, and looks to make changes there that will have an impact on the collection rate. The earliest target date that we have is October, and that's on page 3. The majority of actions are over the coming months. So this is a bit of a long game in terms of making these improvements, but hopefully the comprehensiveness of this plan will give you some comfort that we are starting to really get beneath the bonnet, really, in terms of that revs and benefits service that's offered. So that would be my high-level introduction. I've got any questions on the actual detail. I don't propose going through it line by line. I'll do my best, so our revenue manager isn't present with us this evening, so if there isn't any detailed questions, I'll take them away and report back.
Okay, any questions at all? Mr. Lloydell.
Forgive me if it seems a silly question, I just spotted it. Page 4, P4, talking about small customers with small balances outstanding highlighted in the recovery report. In the last paragraph, with no schedule in place, it can be many months before customers are contacted. Customers' contact reduces as more payments. How does that work? It's maybe small balances, but it might be a lot of them, which is quite a lot of money. It could be quite a lot of money.
Sure. Yes. So and that's what the action is around. You know, I suppose if somebody's got an outstanding debt of £3.50, you know, officers are clearly focused on. Officers are clearly going to focus on the higher value debts and pursue those in the first instance. But you're absolutely right. The sum of all of those £3.50s could equate to actually quite a large and significant bill. So that is that action, and that's what it's conveying there, is ensuring that actually we are chasing those small balances on the basis that the sum of those small balances, you know, that could be significant. So it's understanding that position and making sure that we're taking action around that.
I just haven't.
Carry on.
At what point would you then identify the fact that it's cost more to try and collect it, and you might want to write it off? Is there a process for that?
Yes, it is, but we would never consider writing off in-year debts. We would only consider writing off debts when they become arrears, and usually after the statute bar period, which is after 6 years. So until that point, and even by that, so there's a whole range of debt recovery protocol that we would go through as a council to make sure that we are pursuing that debt. Sometimes it is classed as uneconomical to pursue, and that is something that would cross my desk potentially to sign off in consultation with the PFD chair. But on the whole, we should have quite an aggressive policy of chasing those small balances. On the whole, as a general approach.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Morris.
It was to say that we're getting feedback by
That's right.
2 microphones on, it's clicking like hell.
Thank you. Could we go to page 5, P6? I think I understand the logic of what's being said. However, on the first part, it includes strong links with the economic regeneration team. Sure. I'm not quite sure where they fit into the rest of it.
Okay, probably a typo. I think by economic regeneration team, what we're getting at is our economic development offer. So Adrian, as Head of Built Environment, is taking forward some work to look at the offer that we have for businesses in the borough, making sure that we are signposting appropriately with relevant business support and also supporting those businesses. So I think what we'd like to do as a council, as a local leader, is ensuring that people are paying their business rate debts. But then we're also looking as a local leader, ensuring that businesses are supported, in terms of their continuity in business. So just on that business support theme also, obviously clearly it's not relevant to council taxpayers, so I take that on board.
Thank you. And on the third section of that, the last 3 words, I'm not so sure the word execution is a terribly appropriate.
Point taken.
That's what Mr Gill used, isn't it, for execution of a warrant? Yes. Yeah, correct. Yes.
Execution of a warrant.
Any other questions at all? Mrs Bingham?
If I can just also, members, just make you aware that our interim head of finance, Tony, is also on Teams, so it's obviously listening to all of this evening and taking this forward with the service area.
Okay. So if it doesn't work, it's his fault, is it?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Chair again.
Boyce?
Page 7 this time. 13, right, 13, I presume. Or is it just 13?
13.
Reintroduce reviews for mandatory and discretionary charitable exemptions. Are we actually looking to change anything, or are we just making sure that they're current?
That action is actually about both. So we'd like to look at the discretionary rates relief policy with members, and that's really important that, we come back and assess that in terms of current economic conditions. Is that policy, are the reliefs that we're giving to business of organisations can often move on, and therefore they can evolve and emerge and change, and they don't then meet the original criteria of that discretionary rate relief policy. So we'd like to sense check that also by introducing more regular reviews to make sure businesses remain in line and they remain entitled to the reliefs that we're giving to them.
Mr Allen?
Sorry, this is a question maybe the members can help with, and the reason I'm asking is because of this document that's in front of us. Do we have anything like a business forum where proper business people within our world get together and maybe strategies like this can be worked with them so that we can work forward and hopefully, as you say, help businesses that don't fall under, but at the same time hold them to account as well? Do we have a business forum at all in Oldbury and Wixton?
Mrs Bingham and Mr Thorpe?
I'll introduce and let Adrian build on what I say, but it's something that we're looking at in terms of this council being a lead in terms of that business engagement forum. That is something that we're taking forward with a design of a business development offer. Of course, there are always business networks, in any place. Federation of Small Businesses in particularly active here in Oldbury and Wixton in terms of its membership. There's also the LEP in terms of their work with businesses. So there's lots of different sort of engagement forums. In terms of a council-led engagement forum, no, we haven't got something up and running at the moment, but as I said, we're looking to design and build on that offer.
All I can really answer is in the past we have done business breakfasts with a way of engaging with different businesses. They've never been particularly well attended by our local businesses, but as it's been said, I think moving forward we need to review what our offer is in terms of supporting businesses and business engagement, or maybe what we want to make options to take forward.
I think if we have, obviously we have to wait until any announcements are made by central government, but if there are any grants that are available for businesses that come through the council, then most certainly we should engage with our local businesses. They are aware of those. And it's really an opportunity for the council at the moment to help the businesses go through this very, very rough period that they're going through. Yes, we are chasing them for their rates and their tax and whatever, but at the same time, there are lots of businesses that are struggling, and there might quite possibly be some sort of rescue packages or grants that we need to get them engaged with so they know what they can do and how we can move things forward. So that's where I wanted to pitch it in terms of business grants that we as a council provide, if there's any money there.
Sure.
Okay, Mrs Bingham?
Can respond to that. I think absolutely take that point, we'll take that back and we'll bring that back to members in due course. I think the other thing just to flag is the UK Shared Prosperity Fund. So our investment bid was submitted earlier in the summer. We're awaiting the outcome of that, but there was as part of that, we've been around supporting businesses and a lot by way of business support, but also business grants. So we'll tie all of that in and bring that back.
Okay, Mrs Hack.
Thank you, Chair. I'm going to go back to page 3 and P1, review and improve payment on account. It talks about unbranded properties. Do you know how long it takes for the evaluation for it to work out which band it's in?
Sure. I'm laughing because how long is a piece of string in terms of our dear colleagues at the Valuation Office Agency? We have no control over it, so.
Because it does make a good point. It could be difficult for the resident as well as the council to lose that on income, and they might have to pay a hefty bill at the end of it, which is not their fault. But to have some sort of mechanism to pay, have payment on account would help both those.
Yeah.
And do we know what number roughly? Is there substantial amount of money that can be collected through that mechanism, or is it just viewed? Is it a rolling programme? Do we have properties coming every year?
We have properties coming in every year. I'd need to report back to you, Councillor Hack, on perhaps some of the detail around that. I wouldn't suggest that it's significant just by way of we haven't got significant growth in the borough, so we're not seeing a whole huge raft of housing growth in terms of council tax or business growth in terms of business rates. And I think we do have change in use in terms of business rates, premises, change in occupation and change in use of the building, which may well change the rateable value of the premises. So I wouldn't expect it to be significant, but I can get some further detail on that for you.
We also have a large number of extensions in the borough as well.
Yeah.
Where properties change from 3 to 5 or to 6 bedrooms. Do they have valuation agents involved in that terms? Do they go up in band?
Generally on a sale. Generally, the council tax banding is set and was set back in the 1990s. They tend to change on sale because of the valuation is reflected in the sale price. So, for instance, the property that I live in was originally valued at B, had an extension, and it became band C when it was sold.
Here, and my next question was on page 7, line 4. Reach use completion notes. Do we rely on the developers to tell us when the property is completed, or any other process? Because they could hold a property empty for about 6 months before telling us that it's completed. How do we find out?
In which case they would get some vacant, some exemptions. Again, I need to check the detail for you on that one, Councillor Hack, if that's okay, Chair.
Mr Gill.
Thank you. Sorry, for my former life working in resident benefits, basically what the position is that if the visiting inspector determines that the property is substantially complete, he can serve notice on the developer/builder, and at that point council tax liability becomes due, but subject to a banding being received from the valuation office, and the developer has a right to challenge the completion notice through the first tier tribunal to say that the building is not complete. So it is a mechanism if you feel that the developer is delaying the development, you can almost use it to force their arm to do something, either appeal against it or actually get the building completed properly and on the market.
Sorry, Chair, my question was around how do we get to find out whether the property is...
We have a visiting officer that goes out and visits.
So if you rely on
yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Mr Boyce.
Thank you. On page 7, S1, review academy usage. Presumably the person who will be coming in to replace Tony on a permanent basis will have full and extensive knowledge of academy.
Councillor Boyce, the academy system is our revenue and benefit system, and yes, I will ensure that that is taken forward.
Thank you. Any other questions? That completes item 7. We note the report. Everybody happy with noting the report? Please indicate. Thank you. Moving on to item 8, I'm proposing to defer item 8 to the next meeting so that we have a draft action plan and costings. Have I seconded for that?
Second, Chair, having said that, can I also ask that we investigate whether any Environment Act or any other legislation also needs to be taken into account?
Yes, that's been done. Mr. Bentley?
Thank you, Chair. And I also ask that members can put in emails with any alterations or queries on the document before it comes back to us again.
Certainly, yes.
Go to Mrs. Khan.
Well, they go to Mr. Gill and he can decide who's going to deal with it.
I'm happy for any comments to be received on the proposed strategy and any suggestions for any improvements. That's fine. And certainly with regard to the comment that Councillor Boyce made about legislation, I did have a quick look, being made aware of the issue. There is no requirement under the Environment Protection Act to have a minimum level of cleanliness in areas. There is, however, a code of practice, which is not a statutory code of practice, it's a guidance, but we will endeavour to include that within the policy.
Okay, all right, thank you. Mr. Lloydell?
That's right. I'm not bothered what Mr. Gill was saying, but it might be guidance that can come back and bottle can be used in the court of law, which Mr. Gill knows. So it's important that guidelines to use.
Okay. All right, thank you. With that, that ends this evening's meeting. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you.
Thank you.